But it sounds like you think that the president will be impeached, or at least proceedings will begin in the House at some point, but just not right now.
Yes, exactly what I feel. I think we've already begun it. We've got all of these committees doing their work. We're having hearings. We have already won 2 court cases, and there are other cases that are still to be determined.
James Clyburn, the third-ranking Democrat in the House, so when he speaks, people obviously listen. Speaker Pelosi, she's still staying cautious when it comes to impeachment and holding off, at least for now. But a growing number of House Democrats want to move forward, and so do many of the 23 Democrats who are running for president. Well, my next guest, he has correctly predicted the last 9 presidential races, and he says Trump will have a good chance to roll to another win unless Democrats make the move to impeach. Presidential historian Allan Lichtman, he joins you now. He's also professor at American University and author of The Case for Impeachment. So I don't think we have to divine where he's going on this debate. Allan, it's always good talking to you. First, let me start off with some of the arguments for why the Democrats should play it slow. The Bill Clinton example, where Republicans overplayed their hand. They were seen to be motivated by pure politics rather than a high crime and a misdemeanor. And the punishment that they were seeking outfit the crime, or so it was argued. Does history back that up, that there was an electoral punishment by a perceived overreach by Republicans?
That's one of the worst misinterpretations of history we've had in recent years. You know, first of all, the case against Donald Trump is so much more grave than the case against Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton was being impeached for covering up a private consensual affair. The allegations against Donald Trump go to obstruction of justice, which cuts to the heart of our justice system, undermining our democracy, and perhaps even undermining our national security. Second, the Republicans actually gained immensely from the impeachment of Bill Clinton. Sure, they lost a couple of House seats in 1998, but they gained the biggest prize in American politics, the presidency, in 2000. George W. Bush beat Al Gore by 537 votes in Florida and won the presidency. And the cloud of scandal coming from the impeachment blunted the vote for Gore. A quarter of voters said the scandal was very important in their decision-making, and the scandal kept Bill Clinton, their best campaigner, on the shelf and gave the Republicans their theme for the campaign: let's restore honor and integrity to the presidency.
Last week, at the end of the week, I had Liz Holtzman on, and obviously she knows a thing or two about impeachment, being obviously one of the players during Watergate. And she says there's this false argument that either right now, beginning of June, you vote for impeachment or you vote no. Take a listen to what she had to say, because she believes that there's a third way.
We can't expect people right now to declare for impeachment. That's not what happened in Watergate. What they can declare for is an inquiry to determine whether there's impeachment. That's a different thing. So we never started out saying, you know, we're going to impeach President Nixon. What we started out saying is, what does the Constitution say? What are the facts? Are the facts sufficient under the Constitution to warrant articles of impeachment? That's how we proceed.
So are you with her that they should start an inquiry here rather than just move full throttle with a impeachment vote, get to the bottom of it? I mean, if you think about it, you didn't have the tapes of Nixon, you probably wouldn't have got there for the impeachment. You still got to ask some questions.
She's absolutely right. People don't realize impeachment is a 4-stage process. You don't jump to impeachment. You start with an impeachment inquiry in the House Judiciary Committee, where you present in a public way the case against the president. Then, if necessary, you vote articles of impeachment in the full House, which are not just allegations now. We're dealing with formal constitutional charges that must be answered. And then number 3, you move to a trial in the Senate, in which prosecutors from the House can present documents, call witnesses, make opening and closing statements, cross-examining witnesses from the president. Then and only then do you move to a vote in the Senate. By the time you go through the first 3 processes, if you have a real case against the president, you would have brought the public along. When this process started against Richard Nixon, he had 67% approval. and calls for impeachment were less than 20%. Even before the full tapes were released, the public revelation of his misdeeds brought his approval rating down by over 40 points to 25%, and well more than doubled the sentiment for impeachment. So absolutely, you need to bring the public along through this multi-stage process, and you can't not do your constitutional duty to impeach because the public isn't there before you've even started.
Now, as I said off the top, you picked the last 9 presidential elections right, and you don't do it all by gut. Otherwise, I'd be paying for a first-class ticket. We'd be going to Vegas this weekend out. You do it with this set of criteria. You got this list of 13 items here, and you apply them each. Now, my question is, the case for impeachment, is that a political calculation only? I know you said they need to do their constitutional duty because Pelosi says, do the math, everybody. We don't have the numbers in the Senate. Until we have a realistic shot, you can't move to step B until you clear, at least the mathematical portion of the equation.
She couldn't be more wrong. First of all, it is the constitutional duty of the House to begin an impeachment inquiry if it's merited. Impeachment was not put in the Constitution as some catastrophic event. Rather, they put it in advisedly as a legal, orderly, and peaceful process for dealing with a rogue president as an alternative to the way they dealt with rulers at the time by assassination or by revolution. It is not the duty of the House to look into some crystal ball to try to figure out what the Senate may or may not do. And who knows what the Senate may do after you've gone through the whole process that I've talked about, plus the process itself is absolutely critical. You mentioned my keys, and not only is it right constitutionally and morally, it's right politically. On my keys system, the Republicans that hold the presidency would have to lose 6 keys to be predicted losers in 2020. Right now, they're down only 3 keys. Nailing down the scandal key through the impeachment process would be a 4th key, bringing them much closer to defeat, and it could trigger other keys like a real challenge to Trump's renomination or a third-party movement. And indeed, he's also vulnerable to a downturn in the economy or a foreign policy disaster. But impeachment is the key. It is right in every regard. Again, remember, when this process started on Richard Nixon, you didn't have Republicans on board, and you didn't have the public on board, but the case was so compelling that all of that changed. I believe the case will be equally, if not more compelling against Donald Trump, because you're involving now possible misdeeds implicating a foreign adversary that's trying to destroy our democracy. Make no mistake about it. That's exactly what Vladimir Putin is all about.
Well, I'm not trying to be halcyonic in terms of the good old days when Mr. Smith goes to Washington. That said, though, when you look at some of the players who did change their minds over the course of the investigation, you had people that at least were in pursuit of the truth. Do you believe, as polarized as things are now, and if they haven't turned on Trump by this point, that there really are a dozen Republicans who theoretically or more would be willing to change their mind in the Senate on this president and impeachment?
I think that's a long shot. I agree with you on that because the Republicans have so sold out to Donald Trump and don't seem to care what he does. What we have in America today, sadly, is a Republican Party with no principles but a spine, and a Democratic Party with principles but no spine. But they still have a chance to grow a spine. But my critical point is you should not be second-guessing what the Republicans do. That's the end stage of the process. The first 3 stages in terms of educating the public about the transgression of this president and why it would be so dangerous to reelect him is not only the constitutional duty of the House, but also incredibly valuable for the country. And I believe the only way the Democrats in it prevail in 2020. I have a message for Speaker Pelosi, who otherwise I admire a great deal. My message is history celebrated Catherine the Great. It would not have celebrated Catherine the Cautious.
And that is a perfect note to close on. We put up a book jacket there again. Professor Lichtman, it's always great talking to you. And obviously, as we get close to 2020, we'll see if you go 10 for 10. Thanks for the time.
Look forward to speaking with you again.
All right, everybody, when we come back, we're going to bring the table back in to discuss impeachment. Chris Shays, he was one only of a handful of Republicans who voted not to impeach President Clinton. We'll compare then to now.